Just like George and Wheezy, the Sunbelt's RPI is moving on up. It's Locked on Sunbelt.
You are Locked on Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right. We did clear the 1,900 subscriber level, so that was outstanding. Appreciate that. Appreciate Tony Gibson coming on last week, along with Ryan Pannone. And we still have one more coach to get to. We'll probably do that for tomorrow's episode. Although I guess the last question, well, maybe the last question is still timely. All right, we will get to Troy bouncing back. They lost to JMU, and their RPI suffered because of that Friday night, but they came back to win the series. And could Arkansas State make some waves in the Sun Belt Conference tournament? I'm not sure anybody thinks they can win it as of right now. But hey, if they finish over 500, we'll get into that. You know, it could be, that's all I'm saying. Could they surprise in the Sun Belt Conference tournament? All right. But as we started this a couple weeks ago, talking about the RPI, and I think even last week it had moved up, or maybe in the middle of last week it had moved up. But when we started this, remember, it was the RPI for the Sun Belt was 9. All right. And here you can see that it is 7, although still very close to being number 8, a little breathing room between 9. If you're listening to this, this is from Warren Nolan, again, warrennolan.com. And so the Sun Belt ranks 7th at 0.5262. All right. The 8th is 0.5249. And 9th is the Southland is 0.5209. All right. So there's a little breathing room in there. At the same time, a couple of nice wins, and the Sun Belt could be sitting 6th, as Conference USA is only at 0.5292. All right. Not that much difference between 0.5262. All right. There is a little bit more room to get to the Big Ten, so that's probably not going to happen. And again, the whole Oregon State thing with the independent thing is throwing the whole thing off. But they're the only ones in the independent, so they have a very high RPI because nobody else is in the conference. Okay. So Sunbelt has a shot, doesn't it, to get to 6th? I think they have an absolute shot to get to 6th. And we'll go over more of the games specifically, but you can see where it has improved. Coastal Carolina is back in the top 10, right there at number 8, where they are, potential national seed. All right. Troy has fallen. They were a top 20 squad, but now are in the 30s. They're 33, and they have fallen to where, they're getting to that bubble territory. But the biggest improvement certainly is Southern Miss. Remember, we were talking Southern Miss, needing to win the conference tournament to get in because they were in the high 50s. And now they are 38. And so that's got to be a big help without paying attention to some of the others. Southern Miss's move, probably removes them from bubble territory. I'd still like to be a little higher. I'd like to be closer to 30 than to 40. But, if Southern Miss, is one of the top teams in the Sun Belt and they have a top 40 RPI, I feel much better about them than I did when they were in the 50s. And you can see where that is. Georgia Southern had moved up, but they had moved back because I think they just lost 2 out of 3. Cajuns lose 2 out of 3 to ULM, so they've gone down. But then some other teams, maybe ULM has moved up. I need to compare it to what it was. All right. App State's RPI has improved. But the biggest mover, which we can see, is Southern Miss. And I think that helps the Sun Belt more than Troy falling down a little bit, as we've seen, because they went from 9 to 7. And if somehow they get to 6, that only helps the Southern Misses, the Troys, and the Coastal Carolina. Again, we still think Coastal Carolina, Troy, and now Southern Miss are fully in play to get to the NCAA tournament. All right. I probably took that off too soon. Let me get back to that. Otherwise, there's not really a team. I mean, Old Dominion has an awful record at 12-21, but they got a good RPI at 70. I still don't think a Georgia Southern at 77 can get in there without winning the conference tournament. All right. Same thing with App State. Got a nice record, 9-6 in the conference. 19-16, but $144 in RPI. So they are not sniffing the NCAA tournament, not yet anyway. But I don't know if they can go on a major run here. But the idea was to get a good seed and make a run in the Sun Belt Conference tournament is the idea. All right. And sometimes the improvement comes, and we'll get to this with Arkansas State. Baseball is much different, I think, than football or basketball. Basketball, you got one or two players, and you can change your whole team, right? Louisville got a bunch of new players, but really it was Chucky Hepburn, basketball-wise, who did that. Syracuse got a bunch of new players, but they got the quarterback and Kyle McCord, all right? Baseball, it's a whole deal, right? Because the other team has the same thing you do, right? You can't defend against good pitching. The other, right? They all have Friday night pitchers too, all right? And probably somebody good in the bullpen, all right? And maybe a clutch hitting middle infielder or outfielder. Someone's got speed and someone's got pop. So all these teams are a lot alike. And that's tough to, compete against when the other teams are like you are, all right? But that's why in baseball it takes maybe a couple of years, but maybe Arkansas State is sort of already headed in that direction. Their pitching staff seems to be very good, and what that may do is entice some kids to stay home instead of leaving the state. There's not a whole lot of talent in the state of Arkansas. We always know that from football, that Arkansas has to go into the other states, Texas and Louisiana, to recruit for football. I imagine it's the same thing for baseball. Right? But Mike Silva's done a pretty good job there. But no, it's nice to see the Sun Belt. The whole idea is that it's nice to see that the Sun Belt is moving up. They are just as close to 8th. In fact, let's make sure. Let's put that back up there. They are wrong one. Remove. Let's see here. They are. They're actually closer to 8th than they are to 6th, but it's all right there for them. If the Sun Belt can keep on winning, and those midweek games mean something, they have a shot at getting the 6th best conference. And what that means is, if you're a top 40 RPI, you're going to get in without having to win the conference tournament. That's what I'm thinking about. I would presume, only because they've been the best teams overall, that Troy, Coastal, or Southern Miss is going to win the conference tournament anyways. The point was that when we started this is that Southern Miss was in a position that they had to win the conference tournament. They are now not in that position. That could change, right? Just as much as it changed in the right direction, it could change in the wrong direction. But as of right now, they're in a spot where you would not think they are on the bubble. Top 40 team, top 7 conference. Sounds much better if it's a top 6 conference. All right. We'll start to look at the series over the weekend. Troy started off very poorly, and that's how their RPI falls, but they end up bouncing back and getting the series victory against JMU. We'll do that after I come back, after I tell you about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can keep track of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery and bourbon. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Your teams every day. And I'll give a shout out to Sunbelt Syndicate because I'm working 40 hours a week, if not more. They do a great job of keeping me updated as well as what happened over the weekend. And it turns out that Troy ends up taking 2 out of 3. But again, it's a bad loss. But like I said, everybody's got a Friday night starter. It's a bad loss when you're losing 7-3 to James Madison it is on the road, but you're losing 7-3 to James Madison. In fact, it was 7-0 before Troy got on the board. This game was not much of a game at all. And that's where the worry comes in for Troy. Do they have the pitching that they need to make a run? Because they generally have the bats, but they did not play a very good game on Friday night. All right. It was Gary Gaines' first loss of the season. That should be mentioned. So he has pitched well up until this point, and everyone's going to have a bad one every now and then. Tough to have it against James Madison. All right. A bad outing against a good team, Coastal or Southern Miss, is one thing. A bad outing against James Madison is disappointing. Doesn't stop and change the fact that JMU, or I should say Troy, bounced back. They doubled up James Madison 6-3 on Saturday, and then come away with the series win on Sunday. The website's not updated as much as it should have been, but I'm pretty sure that Troy did win this ball game, and they did. They blanked them 4-0. There's that pitching. So Troy won this the Sunday ball game 4-0, and that's again huge. And these things are not equal. Taking 2 out of 3 from JMU, it's good for the record. It's good for your Sun Belt Conference tournament. It doesn't change what happens in that first loss. I don't know if we can find out where they were ranked, because usually goes by day, not necessarily by week. But let me see. It doesn't really, I don't know where they were RPI wise, because it's updated all the time. Let me see if we go to RPI. Overall, it was 33. So they're down 8. Maybe it's from the week. Yeah, they're down 8. So my understanding is that there would be no math, but that's from 25. So that's a huge difference, right? When you go from 25, which a few things go your way, and all of a sudden you're hosting. 33, and a couple of things don't go your way, and now you're on the bubble. Now, it's a good thing they got a couple of wins because they didn't fall any further, but they would maybe be in the 40s and maybe 50s if they lose to JMU 2 out of 3. So it's a good job by Troy. Forget about that Friday night loss. Bad loss. Didn't pitch well. Didn't hit well. Move on. And you win 6-3 and 4-0. Winning those Sunday ball games, I always think that it's such a huge momentum deal. All right. Especially I don't know if they're busing from Harrisonburg. But anytime that travel on a Sunday can be after a win, it sounds ridiculous, but it sounds like your favorite team wins in the NFL, because now it's going to be a good week. Now we know Monday is going to be a good day, and we can worry about Tuesday or whoever we're playing midweek later on. But we know Monday is going to be a good day. All right, elsewhere in the Sun Belt, Coastal Carolina, I believe, swept. Let me make sure. You know what? Hold on a second. I was going to say that. Swept Georgia Southern. I believe they did. Yes. So Coastal Carolina sweeps Georgia Southern. And again, that's big for Coastal Carolina because, Georgia Southern's, or I'm sorry, I say Georgia State. Excuse me, Georgia State. Georgia State's RPI is no good. All right. Georgia State's having a fine season. All right. They were 8-5 or 8-4. They're now 8-7 in the conference, 22-16. So they were 22-13. And obviously Coastal Carolina is very good. But now Georgia State's RPI is $135, which very well could have gone up despite 3 losses to Coastal Carolina. Let's see. Georgia State, 135. Let's see. Went down 3 from last week. But nonetheless, that's a good job by Coastal not to lose a game on the road to a bad RPI team. All right. So that's a good job by the Chanticleers. And by the way, they are now in first place by a game over Troy and Southern Miss. Speaking of Southern Miss, they took 2 out of 3 from the Texas State Bobcats. They won 5-2 on Friday and 12-7. 12-1 in 7 innings. And then maybe they let one slip away. Texas State wins Sunday 11-10, and they let one slip away. Ouch. 2 in the 8th and 3 in the 9th for Texas State. Talking about not going away. Not quite Texas A&M hitting 2 grand slams in the 9th inning. But this ball game was 10-6 heading into the 8th inning. And Southern Miss is heading for a sweep and remaining in first place in the Sun Belt. Instead, they lose 11-10. That one's got to hurt. They committed 3 errors. I guess I could look at the play-by-play in the bottom half of the 8th. There's a 2-run home run. No error on this one. They had a walk, reached on a fielder's choice, had a 3-1 putout, and Pugh hits a 2-run home run on an 0-2 pitch. That hurts. If you're Southern Miss, not if you're Texas State, obviously. And then in the bottom half of the 9th inning, so they rallied with 2 outs and 2 on. Single, strikeout, double, strikeout. Runners on at second and third, 2 outs. Single up the middle, scores 2. Had a stolen base, then a walk, then a hit by pitch, and 2 hit by pitches. Oh, goodness. That is a brutal way to lose a ball game. Yeesh. That's a tough way to lose a ball game. Not only did you blow a 10-6 lead heading into the bottom half of the 8th, you hit the tying run. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm reading that right. Did the tying run come home? Oh, no. They hit a man that loaded the bases, and then they hit a second guy, and that brought home the winning run. Ouch. Oh, goodness gracious. See, that's one of those ones that I don't know if Southern Miss is flying from San Marcos to Hattiesburg, but that's a long way home. If they lost 10-1, this makes no sense. Losing 10-1 would be better than how they just lost that game. That was one. I got worried the pitcher can get somebody out. Oh, man. Whew. That's brutal. That is brutal. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll talk about Arkansas State. Can they make waves in the tourney? They take 2 out of 3 from South Alabama. We'll do that after I tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always have a real person to talk to. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code S-H-5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. I didn't get the stats up here to begin with. Usually I do that. So Sunbelt baseball statistics. We did the right one. Yeah. Let's see if we can move these around. Overall, we're looking at pitching. Arkansas State is second in the Sunbelt at 3.82. That's impressive. That's really impressive. Almost better than a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. They are, how about this one? They allow the fewest amount of walks in the conference, 114 walks. Others are striking out more, but they're only allowing 114 walks. That is outstanding, okay? In terms of earned runs, they have allowed 27 unearned runs. That doesn't look to be too bad. You know, some teams are pretty good. Georgia Southern doesn't have many errors. It looks like they've only given up 18 unearned runs. The difference would be Georgia Southern's given up 223 runs. Arkansas State's given up 155. Coastal Carolina is number one, by the way, in the Sun Belt. 3.44. Arkansas State's 3.82. Southern Miss, then it drops off to 4.23. South Alabama, sorry about that. Let's try that again. All right. ERA. Coastal Carolina, 3.44. Arkansas State, 3.82. Then Southern Miss, 4.23. Marshall, 4.31. And then you have Troy. We got to go back and look. Was it over 5 before? And they did finish with that shutout. They have a couple of shutouts and pretty good. All right. From there, 10 saves, second tied for second in the conference. Georgia State has 20 saves. Wow. Wow. All right. So that's a real improvement. The point is that Arkansas State has improved. And maybe it won't turn into an NCAA berth in year one of Mike Silva. But boy, Arkansas State's athletic program is going in the right direction. This is going to be the year for Arkansas State football, right? We think. All right, I guess Jalen Raynor can come back for another season. But you would think this would be the year that they're going to see if they can get it done. All right, they finally they did win the bowl game last year. All right, so Butch Jones says it's been methodical. All right. It's never going to be overnight. It's tough to do that overnight. My guy, Fran Brown, did that. That is the exception compared to the rule. And we'll see what happens in year 2 of Fran Brown. Might not be quite as good, but we'll see. And basketball, Brian Hodgson, despite not reaching the NCAA tournament for a couple of years, played in the championship game in back-to-back seasons. Been a minute since that's happened for Arkansas State. Women's they won the conference tournament. They were in the NCAAs, and now baseball showing that I would think, market improvement. Let me see if we can get the stats from last year. Select a season. Let's see what the difference is. Arkansas State. Oh, nope, hold on. Arkansas State ERA last year, 6.81. They're three runs better this year. 6.81 to 3.82. That's a huge improvement. That's enormous. They may cause some havoc come the Sun Belt Conference tournament. I'm not sure if they have enough to win it. But here's the thing. Standings-wise, they need to move up a little bit to get a better seed. They are still sitting at 7 and 8. So that's tied for 7th. So they need a little bit better seed because obviously the fewer games you play, got better chance you get. But boy, they could add some losses to some teams. All right, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And that's a great job by Mike Silva. They being Arkansas State, they took 2 out of 3 from South Alabama. Let's see. It was Arkansas State winning 6-3 on Friday, losing 3-2. South Alabama getting the Saturday ball game 3-2, and then on Sunday, Arkansas State winning 5-2. So even, think about this. What did they give up? 5. They gave up 8 runs all weekend. That's total. That's pretty good. I don't know what's earned or not. Giving up 8 runs in a weekend, it is a little bit disappointing. He didn't win the series. But see those improvements in the pitching, and then you just go improve the hitting next year. All right. But here's the other thing. As much pressure as there is on the pitching, the hitters know that if we just get a little bit, right, we don't need, like Troy, we don't need 8-9 runs to win, where all the pressure is on the hitters. Now for Troy, the pitching is like, if we could just give up 4 or 5, that's different. Whereas Arkansas State knows, boy, we can, if we score 3 or 4 runs a game, we're going to be in each and every game. All right. Not all of them, but maybe most of them. All right, let's see where else we are in the Sun Belt. ULM takes 2 out of 3 from the Ragin Cajuns. It has been a bad season for the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. ULM is at the bottom of the standings along with JMU, and the Cajuns are headed. They're 8-7 overall. They did win Friday night pretty decisively, but they lost the last 2 ball games. Whew. Not great, Bob. If you are a ULM 5-10 in the conference and 18-19 overall. Cajuns 8-7 in the conference, 17-22 overall. It's just been a bad year. I also will say this, okay, and this is the problem with maybe all fan bases, but especially only because I've been around them. If you're not winning championships each and every year for the Cajuns, they think something's wrong. There was a ton of talent that they had last year, and a ton of talent moved on. It's not nearly as easy to replace those kids in that sport as it is in other sports. They have a lot of young talent. We'll see if it stays healthy. We'll see if it sticks around. But some of the guys that they were counting on, you want to quickly go through these statistics, because let's see if it is not pretty. Like, I don't think they have. Let me go to Ragin Cajuns quickly. Like, I'm not sure they have a 300 hitter. They're just not very good offensively at all. And that the Cajuns not only have been good offensively for the better part of a decade, but they've been clutch hitting, right? Last year, they had Kyle DeBarge. Connor Higgs is having, a couple of guys are having a good season. So my mistake. Connor Higgs is having a good season, really good season, right? But listen to this. He's hitting 333. He's got an OPS of 1150. He's got 12 home runs, 27 RBIs. There's not many people on base in front of him. He's barely got more than double his home runs. All right. Meanwhile, every other time he gets a base hit with somebody on, if he does. Caleb Stelly is hitting 292. He's got 5 home runs and 20 RBIs. Owen Galt, 292, no home runs, 10 RBIs. Liamity was supposed to provide some power, 1 home run, 22 RBIs. So this is what I mean by Connor Higgs, 12 home runs, 27 RBIs. Both Jose Torres and Liamity have 1 home run apiece. They have 22 RBIs. That tells you all you need to know about the Cajuns offense this year. All right. We will be back again on Tuesday. We have off Thursday, Friday this week. So again, we're still trying to get some guys. And now the football coaches are going to be MIA because they're going to be out recruiting. We'll see what we can do moving forward. Do have back-to-back days off. Still have one more coach. They finished up their spring practice a couple Saturdays ago. So not this past Saturday. Why don't I just say it? It's not a secret. It's already done. Clay Helton from Georgia Southern will be joining us on a Tuesday. So we talked to him about Georgia Southern, having a quarterback set to go. And, what are we looking for in I believe year 4? This is the first time he's had the same quarterback in back-to-back years. Got to cut down on those interceptions. They did cut way back. The thing is that like 80% of his interceptions were in like 2 games. He had 2 bad ball games. Right? JC French we're talking about. All right. Again, over 1,900 subscribers. Really appreciate it. I appreciate the coaches coming on. We'll keep on reaching out to the coaches to see if we can set something up to record on Thursday, Friday. When we put them up there, doesn't really matter, but need to get them to see if we can record. All right. Again, thank you so much. Hope you had a great weekend. We'll do more baseball throughout the week. Until then, enjoy your Monday, and we will be back Tuesday with Georgia Southern head football coach Clay Helton. You've been listening and watching Locked On Sunbelt. Your teams every day.